I'm back in my yard next to the truck. The last scene in my previous video, you saw me backing the truck with a load, but now I'm in my Mazda and behind me is my flip axle, right? Just sitting there. Only quote unquote $500 a month, but it's Canadian, so it's not real money. And why my truck is not here is that basically this is going to be a boring review of my recent experience with what previously was known as Cambridge Mack and now is known as Vision Truck Group. And honestly, I liked them much more when they were Cambridge Mack. There's a lot of reviews online, right, where people just start, you know, slaying the big sword and using, you know, bad words and basically 100% emotion, no facts, right? And then of course the dealer says, wait a second, so what are you saying? You know, we're gonna give them the facts, because I just sent them a copy of my review I did on Google Maps. You know how you can rate a business, and so I gave them 2 out of 5, and my review starts they used to be good, but now they're mediocre. And to be fair, I used to love these guys, and a large part of why I bought Mack truck specifically, which kind of puzzled my subscribers at first, right? Like, why a Mack? That was a big reason, because it's so hard nowadays to find a good shop, you know, a good mechanic. And these guys did very good by me when I had my Yellow International. And so, you know, I developed some nice relationships with the people, with the foreman, you know, with the supervisor. And, you know, they always give you a ride. Like, you tell them, hey, can you guys give me a ride? They give you a ride, you know, like nice people. But recently, and that's, I think, the issue most shops are having nowadays, as they become busier, right? They become busier. They have to start hiring unqualified mechanics, you know, people with pretty much zero experience. They put rookies to work on your truck, and they don't have time to pay attention to a customer instructions. Okay, they're too busy, you know. That's the problem. And so it's not particularly their fault. It's so they were so good that they became busy, you know. And then when they become too busy, they cannot be good anymore, because they cannot spend time like a quality time. It's rush, right? You know. And so what happened, first of all, I appreciate 2 things about my recent experience on Friday. First, they agreed to take my truck in with pretty much 0 notice, because, you know, I had to pick up this mine truck, right? I don't know why I'm pointing in the back. There's nothing there but the truck and this Mazda, right? But it was parked over here. My Michigan permit was not ready on Thursday. I thought I would be trucking, so I canceled my appointment with that shop, which I booked for Thursday morning, so because I had to go get that machine in Sudbury, right? And then I'm back here like at 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and I figured, you know what, like my Michigan permit is not here yet. I don't want to do these repairs in the States because of our Canadian dollar. You know, like the labor rate in the States, it's like 1.3 times more than in Canada for me, and I cannot, when I do stuff in Canada, I get compensated. I get back the 13% tax, which is on, you know, repair and fuel purchases. So it's much cheaper for me to fix stuff in Canada because I'm Canadian. And so I went to a hotel overnight because I was so tired. I, you know, took a shower, and then in the morning I figured, you know what, I'm gonna stay here and see if they can accommodate me, because I pretty much have Friday to myself. Dispatch said I can deliver this machine Monday, no problem. And so that's what I did. I in my car, I stopped from the hotel. I went to the Mack shop. I stopped there. I know they open like 6:30. They're already there, you know, 6:45. Talked to the foreman. I said, guys, there's a bunch of stuff, like small stuff I want done on the truck. Are you too busy today? I said, I don't need the truck today. You can give it to me as long as it's like tomorrow, like today, Saturday. like before noon, because I need to cross the border today. Otherwise tomorrow, Ontario, they don't like oversized loads, even though mine is not exactly oversized, it's just overweight, right? But just to be on the safe side, I want to cross the border today. And they said yes, and I do appreciate that. And I brought the truck, and then the second thing I appreciate is they gave me a ride to the Starbucks coffee shop. And so, knowing that they're busy, and usually I'm very kind of like particular about what I want to do on the truck, because, you know, I'm driving and I'm thinking about this, right? Like, I have a lot of time on my hands, and the major problem was the loss of power due to air in the fuel system. And I only discovered that was the reason by accident, because I was complaining about this in my videos, right? And one of the viewers suggested that I should look into that I might have a air leak, you know. And so I found that priming pump, and I noticed a peculiar thing, that whenever I use that priming pump in the morning, the truck pulls like there's no tomorrow, you know. And the other thing I noticed later on, just, you know, by thinking and experimenting, is that this loss of performance happens overnight, but only when my fuel tanks are not full. If the tanks are full, I don't have to prime the system in the morning. The performance stays stellar. Just like on the day before, the truck pulls great. I can feel 1860 torque, you know. And that was the major reason. And I took my truck to Mack actually a couple of times, complaining about this power loss. They could never find anything. And then I told them about maybe I have air in the fuel system. And they did the standard check, you know, where they connect that plastic transparent hose, and they look for air. And actually they just showed me how it works, and you still can see air, you know, like little bubbles, but they say that's normal. Like but I didn't like it. Like, there was a lot of air, but they said that's normal. That cannot be the problem. And one more thing. So yeah, so knowing this, I typed a work order request on my computer, and it had 6 positions. 6 positions, and I printed out this air in the fuel service bulletin PDF by Mack, sent to me by one of my fans. It was published in 2009, and it's like 10 pages. And the second part has this pretty much transparent plastic hose procedure, right? But I was not too interested in that one, and that's what I told them. I said, guys, don't pay too much attention to that, because the truck drove great this morning, because I drove the truck loaded to the Mack, right? And I could see there's like a hill here, a little hill, and even with the 69,000-pound machine, it pulled, sorry, it's getting too hot, it's pulled great. And so I said, you will not find anything. Just like last time when I brought you the truck, I know when I feel the truck performs great, you will not find a problem. So I said, I don't want it to do that. Just look at the first 4 pages where there were pictures of what to check, like, you know, possible culprits, like there was connections between fuel lines, you know, the suction point. There was a picture of the pump. Sometimes the actual priming pump is loose there when it's connected to the body of the fuel filter, and it can suck in air in there. And there was a couple of other, like, very practical, you know, pinpoint locations you're supposed to check. And so I gave them that service bulletin. And then one more thing I wanted them to do was, just like 6 months ago, I did this special grease. They check, there's like a procedure, again outlined in the Mack operator book. And I brought the book with me to the shop. I said, guys, could you please copy that page number 50? I still remember. Page 50 describes, it's like 8 or 9 positions you have to check and grease. It's a special anti-corrosion grease, and that's what I wanted. I wanted them to do again, because that's what Mack recommends. Every 6 months you're supposed to do this anti-corrosion protection of your electric system. So it's a special grease, and they inspect the cables. Since I'm in Canada with very harsh climate in winter, you know, that's what they recommend. In extreme climates, every 6 months you do this, because I do experience occasional loss of power when I turn the key. It's the same stuff I had on my International, and they can never find the problem where it loses, for a second it loses contact somewhere in the line, right? And so I do this, and so I had them make, I gave them the book, and they made a copy of that page, right? So they received written instructions, and then I talked for half an hour to the foreman about what I want them to do, and I explained, just like I did now, that the truck pulled great in the morning, so don't get too hung up on that tube procedure. Just check all the connectors, all the splits and hoses and the fuel filter and stuff like that, seals. And they were nodding, yeah, okay. And so then they gave me a ride to the coffee shop, and I called an Uber because I got tired sitting there. Because my car was here, right? I called an Uber, and on the way here I remembered that my key to the car, to the Mazda, was in the truck. And so I stopped at the shop. I told the Uber guy, I said, could you please just stop here, it's on the way, I'll just jump in, grab my key from the truck. And so I go to the truck, and the first thing I see is, yeah, my truck is in, the hood is open, and the guy is doing that transparent clear tube test. And I said, hey, I'll just grab my key. And then I'm thinking about this, why is he doing this? I told him, check all these other things, right? And I see some bubbles in there, but it's a very little small amount, right? They said it's normal. And I said, did they give you all my instructions? And the guy shows me his plastic packet, and it's all in. I don't think he even looked at them, How I know? Because stay tuned for later, you will know. And so I went back to Uber, I drove here, picked up my car, and I'm thinking about this, like, it looks like they didn't pay attention to what I said about focusing on the first part of that service bulletin, right? Like, forget this transparent thing, the test, because the truck pulled great in the morning. Like, what's the point? Just wasting my money and wasting your mechanic's time. And so after I picked up my car, I went there, and I kind of talked to the mechanic, then I talked to the guy, and he said, well, this will eliminate the problem. But I said, you will not find anything. I told you the truck pulled great because I had almost full tanks of fuel. This problem, I explained to you in the morning, only happens when I'm low on fuel. Okay. And so then they called me, one of the problems was the fuses with the 12-volt adapters, right? And they called me and they said they could not remove that part of the broken fuse that my mistake was, right? When I tried to install it, it started sparkling, and basically a piece of that fuse broke. And this guy calls me, he says, they tried to get it out, they cannot, it's kind of like fused in, He says, the new fuse box is $260, you want us to replace it? I said, okay, green light, go ahead, okay? So they replaced that, and then they called me again around 10 o'clock yesterday, Friday, so it took them whole day. And they said the truck is ready, and I'm already at the hotel. I said, I'll pick it up in the morning. And so I go in the morning there, today, and there's pretty much no brass, no foreman, no supervisor, just the mechanics there, so I couldn't ask any questions, right? So they just gave me the bill, and I look at the amount, and it's, I was thinking it would be somewhere around $1,000 Canadian, but this was, after tax, it was $1,500, a bit, more than I expected. But I start reading, and I see that they missed half of the stuff I asked them to do, out of those 6 positions, despite my clear verbal and written instructions, right? So for the fuel system, all they show is that clear tube. The customer asked to perform air in the fuel system test. I did not ask for that, right? I gave them the service bulletin. They did not do that. So they did not check the suction lines, they did not check the nothing. Then the second part, I asked him to do anti-corrosion protection of the electric system. Guess what? The guy writes on the bill, he says, customer requests we install battery harness protection. like battery protection harness. It's some kind of like a small piece of wire that you plug in there so that your battery does not blow when it's too much, you know, maybe we're charging something inside. But that's not what I asked for, right? I even give the guy the printout from the book that tells them what to do, and they did it last time, and they were very surprised. What is this? I said, this is what Mack recommends to do in twice a year. Oh, really? Maybe we should offer this to other guys. So they had no clue that this was the procedure, you know, recommended by the Mack trucks. So this time, instead of that one, he tried to install the harness, and he installed the wrong harness, because I looked there, it says, at the customer request, installed battery protection harness, wrong one, replaced with the correct one. 65 bucks. No, it's only 65 bucks, but he didn't do what I asked him to do, and instead he did this wrong thing, right? And then finally they started getting closer to the bullseye. Like, I asked him to fix the hydraulic leak. Occasionally I see on under the sleeper, and I did it last time when the truck was there. I asked them to check, they couldn't find anything. And now when I asked them, I said, don't get too hung up on that one. Just if you see, because I left the gooseneck on the truck specifically for this, to keep pressure in the hydraulic, in the PTO line, right? Because that's where, when the gooseneck is on and there's pressure, you will see some spots, some fresh oil leaks on the asphalt, right? On the concrete. And I said, just do everything else, and then at the end, if you see the leak, fix it. And so when I went back to talk to them about, when I saw that visual clear tube inspection thing he was doing, like, which I didn't like, right? So I went there and I look under the truck and I see drips and I see oil. And so I went and I grabbed the foreman, I showed him this, and he looked, yeah, that's fresh. I said, yeah, it's fresh, your floor is clean, look, you have like just under the, pretty much like under the driver's seat. And so they fixed that. Turns out it was not the line, it was some kind of a switch on the PTO, and so they switched that. Cool. And but also the interesting thing is that they found there was a fuel leak. I repeat, fuel leak right next to the same spot where the PTO was leaking. They found like loss of seal, so they just had to reseal it to stop the fuel leak. And now I'm thinking that might have been the problem, right? If it's leaking fuel, when there's fuel in the line, it'll suck in air when there's vacuum, when the truck is shut off. And so just by accident they ran into that one, only after I pointed that there was a leak of oil on the floor. You know, they would have missed that too. I also asked them to check the front end. There was some noise coming from there, and so they tightened the U-bolts, and they found that there was lack of grease somewhere there, and that's even though I greased the truck regularly, right, but maybe they forgot to grease it, like the place I went to before. And so he added grease there, he did that, and then one more thing. But my major concern was that they did this battery protection harness, which I didn't request. They failed to do the corrosion thing, anti-corrosion, and they did not follow the air and the fuel system service bulletin. Oh, and the fuse box, the labor, they charged me 3 hours labor, so it's like almost 500 bucks Canadian just to replace the fuse box. I don't know if that's justified, but this clear, transparent, stupid fuel test cost me 250 bucks. And I told them it's not gonna work, the truck pulls perfect, don't focus on that. And yet they did. So they ignored my written instructions, they ignored my verbal instructions. The price was too high, but they did put my truck in the shop right away, and they did give me a ride to Starbucks coffee shop. So, and that's the truth. Those are the facts, but I'm not bringing my truck back to Vision Truck Group in Cambridge ever again. Thanks for watching.